Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today, I got the fabulous Rebecca with me, and I tell you what, she's going to be one of the guests that I do not have to prompt to get any details out of. So I'm really excited about my job being easy today. But anyway, Rebecca, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask absolutely everybody. Why did you become carnivore?
Thank you, Stephen. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but yeah, it's just very exciting. So I get excited about everything I talk about when it comes to carnivore. I basically spent the last 30 years of my life in pain. I mean, proper pain. We're talking, terrible stomach, bloating, digestion, gastric, just awful, awful pain every single day since my 20s with bloated and constipated for 30 years. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, properly bad. And I kept it all to myself, kept it all inside. And it just got worse and worse over the years. And it started, in my early 20s. And I look back now and I know all the reasons, obviously, but it was, my childhood was super, very natural. Grew up in a very wholesome family, living in the countryside. My mother was an amazing cook. It was all very natural food, and um, you just kind of lived on a farm, really. So there was no sugar actually then at all. Um, and it was funny. I was talking about meat and two veg the other day. How we all say meat and two veg. And I'm like, meat and no veg. So that was all how it was. Anyway, then in my teenage years is when my sugar addiction started. And just so interesting, because it's only now that I've recognized it 30 years later, because I was never overweight. I was always actually super skinny, underweight. But I had this sugar addiction, which was, I know, related to, I think a therapist would have a field day on me because I was sent away to a boarding school, and that's when I started to, sweets were my thing. And it was just chocolate and biscuits and sweets and crisps. And I was eating, I was malnourished properly. I wasn't eating nothing substantial at all. White bread. And so I was sort of under eating and then just sugar. So get into my 20s and I moved down to South France, which is where I live now. And that was all super exciting and very kind of glamorous. And I'd never seen anything like it. There I was in the suntan. And, I'd never had a tan in my life or anything. So, and this was like year 1998 or so. So I wanted to be like this sort of, I think I wanted to reinvent myself looking back to be sort of all glamorous and suntanned and skinny, 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 skinny. So I never had like an eating disorder, but I definitely, well, I basically then comes in the next hot point of my life, which was my exercise disorder. Which isn't a disorder now, but it definitely was then. And this running thing was quite new. I mean, women running marathons and stuff, well, it wasn't that, I'm not that old, but I started running and I loved it. Just like anything I do, it's like full on. And I was obsessed. And I wasn't just running, I think my first run was probably an hour. And then I started doing marathons and ultra marathons. So meanwhile, this all goes hand in hand with the whole sugar thing, because in those days, well, still now, the gels and the power bars and Powerades and, all these Gatorades, that was how else could you run fast? And that's what all the pros were doing. Everyone, I wasn't a pro, but I was running marathons quite a lot. And I'm just living off gels. And in between that, if I'm living on my own, I'm in my 30s or late 20s, 30s at this point, and I'm eating just salads because, of course, I'm living in this sort of like, hot country, and I don't know how to cook. I've got away at this point with never cooking because I haven't really been in like long-term relationship or anything. So I think I remember keeping books in my oven, never turned it on. And I literally ate salads. And basically this is what with my stomach problems were happening because everything was low cal. So this was, of course, it was all sugar-free, everything. So it was Diet Coke followed by a low cal yogurt, with a little salad from the shop, ready made, another Diet Coke, an apple. I mean, all of this is going to make you bloated, isn't it? And those green apples that would fill you up. Of course, I was obsessed with not eating too much. So, and then it's sugar because I'm running just like on sugar. How else? How else am I going to do these marathons? Every 20 minutes, of course, there's more sugar because otherwise I'm going to run out. So, of course, I'm doing quite well. But my body was a mess. My gut was in so much trouble. So it started to get really bad in my late 20s, early 30s. My bloating was horrendous. And this is extraordinary. I ended up in hospital 5 times. It's only now that I really remembered it. It's extraordinary how I've blanked that out. So accident and emergency in an ambulance for basically for being constipated. I mean, my stomach, one time I was sitting in my office, I was doing a super stressful kind of job as well, and my stomach would like bloat up, and I'm chewing gum. I mean, chewing gum all the time because of sugar. I needed it. And I would have drawers full of sugar, of like gum and bubble gum, and just chewing it all day long, packets and packets. It was disgusting. And everything was, anyway, so this bloating was awful. I'd go into hospital and they'd be quite concerned. I thought it was a burst appendicitis or something horrendous. Have all these tests. I've had so many tests, I can't tell you. I mean, in and out of hospitals with every single thing going down me, up me, in me. And every time they would send me away saying, sorry, love, you're constipated, go home. I mean, have you been in that much pain? And those plants were trying to kill me. Basically, they almost did. So I go through this, and it's more and more just plant. I'm not eating any meat, of course. Why would I do that? I mean, I don't know anything about meat. I will look at the butcher's counter in the supermarket with sort of terror, like that was for just grown-up people. I mean, I would just be wanting the salads. And not really bread, so it wasn't like carb addicted. And it's funny, I sort of think, oh, well, I was healthy because I wasn't eating pizzas and pies, but it would be better if I had been eating pizzas and pies rather than this rabbit food that I existed of with sugar. And I also had a lot of other ailments. I had horrendous skin, really, I mean, so spotty. And of course I did, honestly, now I think about it. And I went to the doctor and said, come on, you've got to help me out. This is awful, spotty, and it was just killing me. I was obsessed with it. And so he gives me this prescription. I go off to the pharmacy and I take it, and two weeks later, my skin's cleared up. I see, this is fantastic, absolutely brilliant. So I photocopy this prescription, I tip out the date, I retake the date, and I take it to a different chemist every month for years. I mean, we are talking, because it's antibiotics. I didn't know what antibiotics were. No one told me. All I knew was my skin was cleared up. So, I mean, years and years of antibiotics. I feel so sorry for my poor gut. Those gut buddies that were being killed, and the pain that I was in, I was just awful. So, and then also actually when I went in the sun, I started to get these blisters on my hands, these like bubbles on my nut, and I've still got scars from them. That was from antibiotics in the sun, from antibiotics for years and years and years. And no wonder my stomach. So I'm like, still all this sugar nonsense going on, and I was depressed too, probably. But again, I just covered that up. Didn't take antidepressants, but had awful insomnia, really bad. I was taking sleeping pills all the time, and anxiety and headaches. I was taking paracetamol nonstop. And when I was running, I was pop another paracetamol because it would help me kind of like get through the pain. I was on a mission, like anything. I didn't want to stop, consider what was really wrong with me. Because also the irony of it, so many other people have said, is that, people thought I was super healthy. Well, I don't know if they thought I was healthy, but I looked quite good. I had this tan, I was slim, had this great job. I could run marathons. I was sort of a little bit successful. So on the outside, all was well. And inside, I was killing myself. So again, it's funny, isn't it, how you see that. And now, oh my God, now, thank God. I still pinch myself every day to realise that I am not in any pain. I mean, it's extraordinary. 30 years. And it becomes your normal. It becomes your reality. So you don't really think, because you think everything else is okay. I'm not, there's nothing really wrong with my life. I can't complain. And look at all the other people who are suffering. And so, and also not being overweight. That's the thing. A lot of people come to Carnivore for the weight thing. And for me, that wasn't it. So again, it was all very complicated. So get through into like the last few years, we're getting closer now. So of course, then in comes the smoothie epidemic, and I jump right into that. I'm like, smoothies, this is it. So I buy the blender and I get the kale and the spinach and everything goes into it, and I'm just smooth it up like every day. These massive giant jugs of smoothies, and my stomach was not dealing with that at all. I'm still just hugely constipated, and I'm bloated every time I drink one, but I carry on because I put all these powders in them too. I mean, what was I thinking? Collagen powder, but whatever was on the internet or whatever other people were doing, I was doing it too, because that was the thing. And one time, again, ambulance, accident emergency from a smoothie, from the plants. It was awful. I was in the middle of nowhere. I have a house in the countryside, and I was on my own and made one of my magic smoothies. I'm drinking it and my lips start to swell up and my face starts to swell up and my eyes and my heart, and I didn't know what one of these shocks was, never had it, and it was terrifying. I couldn't breathe. I literally, my lips were just huge like, bubbles. And I was terrified. I called an ambulance myself, and they came and took me because they gave a big, whatever, adrenaline shot. I was so scared. They put me in hospital and said, "What have you eaten? You are clearly allergic to something. It must be nuts." Or I said, "No. I mean, hello, kale trying to kill me." I almost did. And I come home the next day. I think I made myself exactly the same smoothie and carried on. Idiot. So there we go. So should be obvious, shouldn't it? But I didn't know the option. I didn't think, well, if you eat meat, let's going to cancel all this out. I just didn't know that. So the smoothie thing comes in, then in comes keto. And again, I jump right in. Oh, it's keto, this is it. I read all about it and everything's keto. But in my world, keto I buy keto bars to run, and I start cycling, and I get obsessed with cycling, hundreds of kilometers on the bike. And I'm eating all these keto stuff, which actually I was full of sugar too, really, because it was all like dried. I thought it was all much more natural because it was planty. It was dates and coconut oils, and I'm all into these oils. I buy cupboard full of every single different plant oil, and I'm still salads, all these oils on, right? So I'm getting a little bit better. I mean, MCT oil, I have these bulletproof coffees, what is it? It's sort of butter and MCT oil, whiz it all up. So my stomach's just, it's not enjoying keto at all, but it does help me. I sustained better weight, actually. I was eating masses of nuts. I was crazy with macadamia nuts, spending a fortune on these things. All that nut butter. So I think I was kind of transitioning better. I wasn't carb addicted, but I've still got this sugar thing going on, because if I wasn't doing all this long distance endurance, I wouldn't have actually been eating all this sugar. But I thought, how else can you cycle for 10 hours? Because I do quite long. I've done 12,000 kilometers on the bike this year, so I don't do things by halves. And so I'm on the bike, and everyone else, the other cyclists, all popping gels, another power bar, another pain chocolat, or whatever. So, of course you do. I mean, how can you cycle for 3 hours without this stuff? It's impossible, right? So, but I'm moderating. I actually bought a glucose monitor. That's when I started to realize, hang on a minute, I eat a banana and it goes through the roof. I'm like, Jesus. But I started to get, so we're almost there. I'm probably in my late 40s at this point. I'm 51 now, so we're not long off the transition, when basically it was last year I started to get just really pissed off with this stomach problem. I thought, this is enough now. I can't stand this, because I'm cycling with other people and noticing that they're fine. But after 3 or 4 hours, I've got this huge bloated stomach. I'm like gasping for breath, can't breathe, can't really drink my water. And I'm pushing myself, but my heart rate's going way high. And I'm thinking, what is this? What is wrong with me? And then I think, well, there's probably something really wrong with me. So I go off to London to another hospital, and they do all these tests again, and they put things through me, and I have to monitor when it comes out. And they tell me I've got slow transit. Oh, I'm like, well, I know that. Polite way of saying, you're constipated. But no one tells me, well, it's what you eat. I don't know. They all said, oh, you're too stressed, you're this. I don't know. So I was looking for something. I really was. When you're ready. I mean, a lot of people, I wish I'd been carnivore, obviously 10 years ago, but I wouldn't have been ready. And you have to be ready, don't you? I've heard so many other people say that, or you've just got to have tried everything else. And I knew there was something wrong. I mean, I knew I just wanted to be better at what I was doing, which is cycling, really. That was my big thing. I wanted to be able to cycle, 8, 9, 10 hours. But how do I do it? What do I eat? How do I stop this awful bloating? I'd come off the bike and I'd be like lying like a kind of flapping fish with this just like, ow, this pain, all night pain, and just constipated, and my recovery wasn't great, of course. So, and then I found Carnivore. It was 1st of April this year. So we're now December, 1st of December, like it's 2nd of December today. So it's like, what is that, 8 months, 9 months? It's so funny. I will never forget that day, because it was April Fool's Day. And I transitioned like that. No fool me. But I had this great friend who's highly intelligent and academic. He's always researching the latest this, that, and the other. And he calls me out one day, and we went keto and vegan and vegetarian and all that together. And he's always sending me podcasts. So he calls me, you've got to listen to this. This is amazing. You're going to love this. I'm going to do this. I think you could try it. And he sends me the plants trying to kill us, anti-chafing. And I just read myself on every page. I just knew, this is it. This is it. And Do you remember that feeling? I just knew. It's like that. It's so true. Exactly. This is so, and I had already, done the sort of, what's his name, Gundry and all the plant paradox and about nightshades. And so I was a little bit aware that, but I didn't realize that it's actually possible. And immediately I start researching, and I'm like, immediately just hours and hours of podcasts and interviews and YouTubes. And I find, the one banker and what I wanted to find someone in the UK, because this is all the American group, and I wanted to be part of a community in the UK. And that's when I found Stephen, who changed my life. I immediately signed up. I was like, I need to talk to someone. I need to talk to you. And I mean, poor guy didn't get work in Edgeways. I was just like, help. And like, I knew already. It just needed to be real. And anybody who has not signed up and talked to Stephen or Richard Thomas or whoever else it is, whatever country you're in, I mean, we need this community. But also what I've realised from listening to every single video Stephen's done is that the generosity of these guys is, it changed lives, changed my life completely, saved my life. To a point where I can't, it's just amazing. And they do it for nothing. It's what's amazing. So, really, I can't thank you enough for all the generosity you give to everybody and how much you have just saved me. And I've learned so much, even though I talk a lot. But so anyway, I will let you get it in, Stephen, because the transition was hard for me. And you probably want to ask, so how did I go about it? And so that I've led you up to where I got to, knowing I need to change. But for me now, it was like, okay, I'm not trying to lose weight. What I'm actually trying to do is, how can I cycle for 10 hours? What the hell am I going to read? So I don't know, actually. If you've got a question, I just carry on.
That's great. That's really good. Thank you. See, Rebecca, there was a compliment at the top of the hour, because you've only answered the questions I would pop in with. I would have asked you all the questions and you would have given those answers. So I knew you'd be a great person to interview. And I just want to thank you for a really lovely compliment. It's, I do get messages like that every week, and it makes it so worthwhile. Just, by the way, you accidentally called Richard Thomas, but it's Richard.
That's right. For us. Confusing. Yeah, so it's true, and you guys, you have been phenomenal. And I had some calls with Richard Smith. So the next person who I found, and anybody who is in my sort of like wants to do endurance sport, Sean Sacco. Oh my God, this guy is a legend. I hope he'll listen to this. He's this guy in South Africa. He was on your 24-hour live thing was phenomenal. How he did that. And anyway, so Sean Sacco, he lives in Cape Town. He's a cyclist, and he's a legend, but he's a nutter. He's mad. This guy is like on a different level. He could cycle around the world on just salt and water, I think. And he pretty much has. So he sort of tests, he does like self-experiments on himself, see how far he can go on Carnivore. And I found him fascinating. So I signed up with him, and I was like, tell me more, how can I do this? So going into the next stage was, so on April Fool's Day, when I realised I needed to do this, so I'll just go back to that, because I literally got a bin bag, physically got a bin bag, went to my fridge, pulled out all the kale, and I just was like, you bastards, this is what's been killing me. All the spinach, all went in the bin bag, the whole bang lot. In my cupboard, it was just full of supplements, and I couldn't quite fill all this out quite immediately, but half an hour. I haven't taken a single pill since April, not one pill, not even any fish oil, nothing. And I had all these hormone replacement stuff as well. I'd done that bioidentical, and they'd given me estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, whatever else. I was just like, I remember talking to you about it. I know, should I get rid of that? I was a bit terrified. Like, am I going to suddenly feel different? No, threw it all out. Anything, all gone. And I moved apartments, weirdly enough, quite recently. And I looked in my cupboards and I was packing everything up. I'm never going to need a sieve or a carrot peeler or saucepan ever again. So I threw the entire lot out. It was brilliant moving apartment. I now have, no joke, one saucepan, one knife, one plate, one fork, one cup, nothing else, no cooking utensils at all. That's because I'm quite sort of, I'm like living a single solo life and quite controlled about everything. But what a joy. So this freedom you get. But anyway, going back to throwing everything out, I should have slightly realised that my stomach had never, ever, in eaten meat. I mean, it had no concept of how to digest meat. So I go merrily out and buy. Well, I'm still terrified of the butcher's counter at this point, so I just buy some things. I buy a bit of ground beef and some things, and I struggled, didn't I, Stephen? We had some calls. I kept calling him, going, I can't digest this. I know it's right, and I'm feeling all the benefits of no salads anymore, but I'm really struggling. I was in pain, like different sort of pain. It was like I just could not digest it. I couldn't eat more than little bits of meat, and I was really starting to. And I'd lie there in bed, like how it's like this kind of, it's just like it wasn't going through me, and constipated, or not constipated, but nothing was coming through. And I struggled for a few months. So if you're like me and you've never eaten meat, don't worry, because I didn't worry because I knew this was right, but just be kind to yourself, go slow. And I had to then kind of reel myself back in a bit and think, okay, I'm going to have a bit of chicken, a bit of tuna, I wanted to be the best in class, go straight in to all in, lion, but I couldn't. And I went back and I had some. And I enjoyed that bit. It's funny now, I wouldn't even bother buying seafood or chicken or anything. What's the point? But then that was quite good for me. So I did try and just to moderate, and then slowly. And I did have a little bit of I immediately wanted to be able to shoot off on the bike at 100 miles an hour and be cured. And that wasn't really happening because I was actually not having enough calories really. So I was quite sluggish, not sluggish, just lacking in energy. But then it just kicked in. And I spoke to other people and listened and just reinforced what I knew was right. And now, I mean, my cycling is on a different level. Not that I'm now super speedy, but I can cycle. I mean, last Sunday I cycled for 10 hours with nothing but salt and water. I hope Sean Sack is listening. I swear, and never in a million, if someone had paid me £1 million last year, I would never have thought that's possible. How could you possibly go for 10 hours on the bike? And I've got a calorie counter as well, like 3,000 calories. Well, it's not, it's just a joy because now I go through this different level of ketosis, isn't it? You just get it's another gear and another gear and another gear. And I don't need the food. I don't take anything now. I pretend if I'm with other people, I pretend I'm having something because it's just they think I'm on some silly, I try to lose weight or something. It's not true. But if I actually do eat, I actually find I get a bit sluggish. And I sort of feel I think I'll stop now. But when you're in that zone and you're in that ketosis and you're on a long distance cycle or whatever it is you're doing, you get in this sort of meditation, and it's just this feeling of lightness and the fact I can breathe. So there's everything, isn't there? There's the mindset, there's the ability to just keep going without food and not panicking about what am I supposed to eat, another gel, just the freedom of it. So I mean, but I'm only 8 months in, so I'm, I think it's only the last 2 months when I've really started to feel more confident about being able to go for long duration without eating.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about it. It takes a little while to adapt, and I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping for everybody that's trying to keep up. So you see, the thing is, not eating when you're exercising doesn't really tell the whole story, because you're eating properly and not under eating when you are eating. This is the thing. So your preparation is done not on the day of the race or during the race. It's the day before the race and the day before that and the day before that, because you're building it all. Yes. Really essential fats that you can tap into. I mean, the body, a lean person like yourself has probably got about 1,700, I don't like calories, as you know, but everyone understands them. You've got about 1,700 calories on your body right now, very lean. But you have over 100,000 in fat, even though you're lean, and people are very surprised at that. Well, imagine tapping into this, which is what you're doing, tapping into this vast pool of energy that isn't going to run out because there's so much more of it, So I think that's brilliant what you said. Brilliant.
And I found in that, and I was cycling with someone the other day, and I did slightly sort of say, we talked about ketosis because they understand that, and talked about fat burning. And of course, his comment was, because I am very lean. I mean, I have lost weight, but not hugely amount, but I am very lean. And his comment, of course, was, well, you've got no fat on you, so how can you possibly be burning fat? And he just, stupid, I've been answering some of these questions So anyway, but yeah, so I know now, and I wasn't convinced at first, because all I'd ever known was that I have to. And if you get a little bit of rumbly tummy, on some of the bike rides, I do get that little bit of, I love that feeling now, because I'm now I'm about to change gear. and then it goes. So we used to have that panic of like, oh, rumbly tummy, God, got to eat quick, going to fall off the bike, like I'm going to run out of something. No, now it's like, bring it on. This is it. This is where I'm going into it. And then I'm not hungry. So again, it's changing your attitude towards all of that as well.
I think one of the things, can I just say before we move on, because I want to say, when you said about the less utensils, that's really undersold in this community, because it's one of those things you don't think about. And when I did my app, for instance, a few people said, why aren't there recipe pages? And I said, because it's going to just say, get a steak and put it in a frying pan or put it in
my hand now. And I haven't used my saucepan it sits in there. I have got books in my oven again. It's very funny. But I haven't turned the oven on in my new apartment because I did. I cooked some kidneys the other day, but I need more. So get this. I have to tell you, sorry, just have to say. So now the butcher is like my best friend, and I'm now like right in there. I know exactly what I'm talking. It's all in French, of course, so I had to learn a whole new thing. And the butcher thinks I have a dog because in France, they're amazing, these butchers. They have all these offcuts and they're just throwing them out. They're sort of throwing out all these offcuts. And I said, can I have those? And he looked at me rather strange. I said, well, I kind of cook with them. I make bone broths or something. And then he said, well, do you have a dog? I said, yes, I have a dog. Give him to my dog. So now every time I go in, he emails me what my dog's name was the other day. But I take these offcuts, all the fatty bits, all the bits. I put them in my like bone broth drink. I love all these offcuts. But the butcher now, so anyway, I eat it all raw because I just love it. I love that. And I don't really, most people, they're all into the mince meat. What do you call it? Normal language. We call it mince. Ground beef. I started with that, but actually I just love steaks so much. And I chop steaks up like these big scissors into pieces in a bowl, crack an egg yolk in and some salt and eat it with a teaspoon. But if anyone, I don't live with anyone, but if anyone saw me, I literally eat it in my fingers. And I feel like it's just more like carnivore-ish. I love it. I love my steak, and that's it now. I just beef all day long. So anyway, I was going back. We were talking about something else just then. About the cooking utensils and keeping it minimal and just making life so free. And you can probably tell if you're listening or watching, I am happy, super happy. And I've learned so much more about. I've learned to meditate. No one would ever, who knows me, would think I could do that because I'm a kind of busy person. And I just give so much thanks now every day to being not in pain. Just can't believe it. I'm so grateful to all the carnivore community because, we live these solitary lives in the carnivore world slightly. I do anyway. I don't know anyone else, and I don't talk to anyone else apart from my friend who I mentioned earlier. So I listen all the time to all the podcasts, and it just, not that I need to learn more now because I know it, but it's nice to feel part of a community like that. So life's got a lot better. I mean, I know now that I was unhappy for a very long time, but I didn't recognise it. And now it's all good, thanks to you. I wanted to mention also my electrolytes because I got them with me. So if you're doing a lot of long distance cycling and you live in a hot country, obviously electrolytes is critical. But I mean, I think it's important anyway, isn't it? Just when you're carnivore. But this is what I think is great. And it's not because I'm trying to promote them at all, but just if anyone else is interested, it's by Trace Minerals. And they do something called 40,000 volts, which is an electrolyte concentrate. And it's delicious as well. I put it in sparkling water. And then they have a miniature version, which I can take when I'm cycling. So I just drop those in my water. Or salt. I have like little salt caps. Because we were talking earlier, weren't we, Steve, about how I was trying really hard. Everyone was talking about electrolytes. And I was thinking, what do you mean electrolytes? What are you taking? Because all the electrolytes I found had sweetener in them. And I cannot go down that sweetener route again. I mean, I was so sugar addicted. I was pre-diabetic, I'm sure. But so I can't do that. And I looked, couldn't find anything. But I do know, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Richard has got a new electrolyte he's just come out with, which has got no sweeteners in it. So I'm definitely going to try that. Because originally, a lot of them, you've got to be a bit careful with these electrolytes. You look at the ingredients and it's just got something with a complicated word in it where you know that it's probably not the one. So it's salt. Weirdly enough, I overdosed on salt and I started to get in the night cramps in my legs. And it was definitely the salt. It's interesting the type of salt I was taking. There's some more potent salt. I was having too much salt. And as soon as I cut back a little bit, these cramps went away. And I'm so sure it was the salt. So that's something that I self-diagnosed. Yes, so what else do I eat? Butter, beef, and salt. Very rarely have anything else because I've never also been very interested in food, strangely enough. Not strangely enough, but I never cooked or learned anything about food. I was always a bit nervous of food because I didn't know what was going on, how to do it. So now, the more simple, the better for me. And bone broth. This is a really good one because I needed a powdered one so I could take from A to B, take around. This is by these guys called Nordic Kings. And again, it's like a small business, one-man band, guy called Robert in Norway. I mean, he's great, Nordic Kings. And he does supplements for keto and carnivore. So he does all the liver supplements. And I started thinking I needed all these liver supplements, kidney things and heart. And then I thought, I can't bother with that. But that is a really good beef bone broth. It's totally natural, of course. And I put it in a cup and I actually whiz it up a bit so it froths up. It's delicious. And I put pieces of raw meat in it, the offcuts from the butcher, and they sort of cook in it. So it's actually like if you just want a little snack. That's my...
I think what you mentioned, you snuck in the bit about the social aspect, and I think you're right. I mean, yes, obviously I get lots of comments and like I say, through the app and on Mighty Networks and all that. And it is good that we're all together, and it is difficult, definitely, to talk about it outside of people that are interested in it. But I do feel that you're a very good example when it comes to cycling and when it comes to athletic performance. And people will come to you eventually because they'll spot that you're not having gels every 20 minutes and that your performance has improved and you're looking great.
I have it already. It's very hard though. So I have told people that I'm kind of keto adapted and they all seem to know about that. And I do try and tell them that I find, I said, have you tried going a few hours without food? Because I had a glucose monitor. So I mentioned that, sort of try and introduce them to it a bit. But a lot of the time I'll just say, no, I just had a bar, or, I really want to talk about it because it's something that I'm just so loving and I don't want to have any anxiety or stress. Going out socially, I'm not a very social person. I quite like, I find I like being on my own a lot. So I don't tend to go out really anyway for dinners, and I don't drink alcohol. So it's been a lot easier. I appreciate for other people, it must be so much harder. If you've got, husband, 3 kids and you go out socially and I don't know how you do it. It must be much harder. So me, it's easy, but obviously there's always something, isn't there? You can always have a steak tartare, or meat, or you can have, there's always, and what I did actually the other day when I did go out, I ordered a steak, and of course it comes with the chips and salad. Do not make a fuss with the waiter. Just don't say anything. Just accept it with the chips and the salad. Because someone's always going to reach out and have a few of your chips anyway, and you just mess around with it and leave it. They're not going to notice. And you just eat the meat. And if you start making a scene and saying, no, don't bring any of that, and don't bring any, put it on the side, everyone else starts to ask, In fact, it was funny because they did come with the vegetables, and I left the broccoli, the poison broccoli, on the side, and the chips, and someone else had my chips. And then the guy sitting next to me said, "You're not eating your vegetables." I said, "Oh, that's far too healthy for me." And he looked at me and let's talk about the irony in that. But it's not difficult, is it? Once you get to that point where you really, I walk through supermarkets and I look at all those vegetables and I literally feel ill. I can't even, I have to swerve around it because I just can't stand seeing it all and thinking what I did to my body. So you get to that point where I'm not interested. If somebody offered me, a spoon of ice cream or a spoon of butter, there is no hesitation. I eat spoons of butter a lot, like literally teaspoons and spoonfuls of butter, and I would not want that sugar because I know how, I just immediately, I can sense pain. So for me, it's not about a weight thing at all. And that is a problem. Like, people do think, oh, she's on a diet. And I went to a birthday dinner thing and the cake came out. There was lots of people there. I thought, how am I going to get around this one? And it was a family thing, and I was at the table, and, the cake gets sliced up and everyone gets a plate full of it. And I can't say no because it looks like, oh, she's on a diet. Because she's also, people do say, are you a bit underweight? So I accept it. So I think, now, how am I going to get away with this? Where's the dog? But no, so I pretended my phone went, and I said, oh, excuse me a minute. And I stood up from the table and I just took the plate with me, just like that. And I was sick. Went into the next room, put the cake in the bit and came back, sat down. No one noticed. There's always a way. You just shuffle, leave a bit there so it doesn't look too obvious, mess it around a bit. Oh, it's delicious. Would you like another piece? No, thank you. So yeah, my advice to anyone on that level, don't make a fuss. You can get by. It's like alcohol. If you don't want to drink and other people are, you just make sure that I don't know, the waiter knows it's the tonic without the gin or something. You can do it without making a fuss, unless you want to tell everyone, but even the one who can all the time.
Excellent tips. Yeah, and I think the thing is, you're actually quite a socially adept person, quite confident. It just shows that there are ways around it. If you are worried about upsetting people, there are ways around it to eat this way. And that's a simple bit of advice. Don't even make a fuss. But by the end of the meal, if someone picks up and says you didn't eat, oh, by the way, for the Americans, chips are French fried potatoes. If someone picks up that you haven't eaten them, then they really need to get a life, because if that's all they're worried about after having a fantastic meal, that's crazy. So you definitely wanted to talk about a few things. I'm going to prompt you because you've done everything you said you wanted to do, but you just wanted to talk a little bit about coffee.
Yes, I struggled with that one. And I knew that you had coffee, and I knew that Richard had coffee, and I loved listening to the other carnivore kind of gurus who had coffee, because I was like, okay, well, that's fine there. But I do like to be the top of the class. I do want to be the best. So I knew it was plant. So I thought, okay, I'll slowly. So first of all, I said to you, what about decaf? Because also the coffee was giving me the buzz. So I was like, well, maybe I should just take caffeine pills instead. And I was like, no, but I like the ritual of the coffee. And out here, I live south of France, Italy, and then, it's a little shot of espresso. I weaned myself off those huge coffees with MCT and all that. That actually wasn't a problem. You can have something like bone broth, but in the morning, of course, we wake up, we want to have that. We really get a kick. What I found now, I don't need that kick because I'm sleeping so well. I get up, and I'm not telling you I can get up and jump out of bed and I can do anything. It takes me a while, but I just have a lovely electrolyte drink. But so the coffee, I thought, well, it's only a tiny shot, isn't it? And it's not really plant. I mean, it's a little bit. But then I was like, no, you know what? I want to do this properly. So I thought, tell you what I'll do is I'll only have a coffee as a stimulant when I'm cycling, because that to me, I'm good with. I do need after 4 hours a little tiny, I mean, we are talking a thimbleful, little shot. But I thought, okay, I cycle Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, so I'll only have coffee on Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays. So again, start like that if you want to. I know lots of people who are carnivores who love their coffees, but what I would advise them is perhaps a little shot, not a big, long, massive Starbucks, and not after a certain time of day. You might say to yourself, well, I'm only going to have one, and maybe it'll be a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Friday. And then you start like that, and then you realize I don't need it. I never have it in the office now. And now when I smell someone having a coffee, I just can't believe how strong it smells on their breath. And I realize this is a bit like, if you give up smoking, you don't realize what it's actually done to you. Because now when I have one, oh my God, the adrenaline I get from it. And I didn't realize, and I was having a couple of espressos in the morning and decaf later on. So yes, I'm pleased with myself. I don't think I'm ever going to go completely zero because I don't feel the need. I really don't. I don't think it's going to make me feel, because I feel great now. And the only reason I take a little shot is purely like to give me that stimulant on the bike. If I wasn't cycling, I wouldn't have it. So I do think it's possible. I didn't have a problem giving up tea. But so many things I never thought. I talk about it now like it's normal. A year ago, I never thought half of this was possible. I loved my hot drinks, and I loved doing all this sweetness. I had almond milk. Oh, I went crazy with almond milk, like unsweetened almond milk, but then I'd put stevia in it. Oh, just give me the bloating. And I mean, the joy of not being constipated and all those laxatives, the whole cupboard was just gone. So there we go. That's
great. I mean, you have covered everything which you wanted to cover. I know there's more. I always took like a 45-minute video. So I'm going to ask you the final question I ask everybody, or nearly everybody. If someone was sitting on the fence about, shall I try carnivore or not, what would you say to them?
I mean, how can you not? But like I said earlier, you have to be ready. There's no point in telling people if they're really not going to get it. But I do occasionally meet people who I think are ready, and they won't make a joke about it. And if you are ready, I mean, the first thing you've got to do, really, I would say, is reach out to, doesn't need to be Stephen, the amazing Stephen, but whoever it is in where you live, whichever country, and have a talk and talk about your concerns, because that's what I did, and listen to all the amazing interviews, and you will know without a shadow of a doubt. But be gentle. I went straight in, jumped in at the deep end, realised I had to get out or around to the other end, go back in slowly in the shallow end. But don't give up. Do not give up. Honestly, I am like your prime case example of 30 years of pain and unhappy. And now, and not because suddenly life's changed, not because I've suddenly fallen in love, or it hasn't at all. So there we go. You will be super happy, and it will change your life. And thank you for changing my life. You've really been amazing.
And there was something else I think you wanted to tell me about just before we go.
Oh, yeah. So then, again, when listening to all your podcasts and your live stream, and I came across the tallow creams. And again, I was looking for something. I thought, oh, yeah, this is all nonsense. I've got all these products, all these face creams. It's all so complicated. And I thought, well, I'll just buy this. And I bought the tallow from the Fat Cow. They're called the Fat Cow people, aren't they? They're brilliant. And they're a UK company. Again, a small company that we should all support. And they have got these fun, I mean, honestly, it's like £4 or something for a little face cream. And it feels amazing. And that is all I use now. I literally threw everything out. So £4 will last me a couple of months. And on my body, again, this was Richard Smith's tip from Sarah, his colleague. And they use MCT oil. And I had all this MCT oil anyway. So I use that now. That's all I use. On my body, it's MCT oil. You can even put it in your hair, and on your face, it's the tallow cream. And that is it. And just keep life simple. And then living in a hot country, I really noticed, and I don't know if this is something, I don't know if I just found this out myself, but I didn't get sunburned. And my tan sort of seemed a bit better. Well, I think your skin gets better, doesn't it? I'd fried my skin, and my skin is like pretty awful, like aged a lot. But so, yeah, so tallow creams and maybe MCT oil, but you might not need that. The Fat Cow people do a body cream as well. And that is all you need. Keep it simple.